Welcome to the Prophecy Club. As you know, we've been talking about Charlottesville a lot lately and how it may very well be the internal revolution. In case we've missed someone that doesn't know what we're talking about, let me do a quick refresh. Then let's move to what is important that we talk about today. As you recall, the angel Gabriel that spoke to Dmitry Dudman said the fall of America would start with an internal revolution. Started by the communists. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. The government will be busy with their internal problems. Then from the oceans, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, Mexico, and two other countries will attack, and the Russians will bombard the missiles in America, and America will burn. Now, here's the question. I'm not trying to change the words of the prophet here, but I'm asking, could this be? Could it be that if we had been told a little bit more details, could it be that the words might have been, the fall of America will start with an internal revolution in Charlottesville, Virginia, started by the communists seeking to remove Confederate statues. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. You see what I'm saying? Now, let's talk about this. Is it possible that the internal revolution and the eclipse that put a black mark from the top left to the bottom right of our nation as it crossed could mean the marking out of America, the beginning of the end, the start of the internal revolution? Headline: now the Vandals are attacking statues of Catholic saints. See, I told you, now this is what, a week ago, I said, look, this is not about Confederate statues. And it's not even between blacks and whites. What this really is, it's an attack on Christians. I've said that. Now, next headline. America warned of race war if whites do one thing. And this comes to us from WorldNet Daily. It says, to all the white people in the United States who worry that anti-white racism is at a fever pitch in today's post-Charlottesville America, black radio host and author Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson has a simple message. You're 100% correct. You've got to speak up, because if you don't speak up, eventually you're going to become angry, and then you will become angry, and you're going to come out fighting in the wrong way, and they're going to accuse you. They're going to pass laws. They're going to say, look, I told you the white man was racist. They're going to blame you, and even more so. In Peterson's view, white racism is nothing to do with the black community's problems. He encourages whites to boldly state this. However, white people, he says, have been afraid to speak up for the past several decades for fear of being called racist, he says. Because whites are relentlessly scorned for something that is not their fault, they become angry, according to Peterson, and this anger has led some of them, including the white supremacist protesters in Charlottesville, into a trap. Because they're becoming angry, they are starting to fight the situation in the wrong way, not realizing that this is going to be used against them, Peterson said. And the Charlottesville incident is being used against them. The mainstream and progressive media, that's the communist media, focused almost exclusively on the white supremacists and neo-Nazis who protested at Charlottesville, ignoring or even excusing the far-left Antifa counter-protesters who showed up and battled with the white supremacists in the streets. In other words, obviously very one-sided, but we're going to get to that. Peterson urged white Americans to speak up and to defend themselves, but never to do it in anger or with physical violence. He says if they fight with anger, and a lot of white folks are becoming angry, especially young whites, it's going to be bad for the country, he warned. Now listen to this, listen. I predict, he says, that there will either be a race war or something bad will happen if white folks start to fight in anger. I understand why they're mad, but it's not right to get angry because anger backfires on you. Peterson has spent much of his career trying to help black men and women overcome their anger, just as Peterson did when he was young. It's part of the mission of his nonprofit brotherhood organization. Now, let me play for you a clip by Dr. Manning, see if he's right.
Either there's going to be a revolution, Patrick Henry style here in America, where red-blooded, God-fearing, Jesus-loving Americans are going to stand up and say, we're not going to take it no more. We're just not going to take it. There's going to be riots in the streets, worse than the riots in South Central Los Angeles after they acquitted the cops that beat up Rodney King. And that was black people rioting. You haven't seen anything. And I'm not advocating killing and murder and stealing and robbing. That's not what I'm advocating. I'm just telling you what people are going to do. People are sick of this. People are tired of it's sickening. I mean, it's downright sickening to watch this. You can get these white folk all riled up here. I'm going to tell you something. They're going to come in, the white folk get riled up. Members of the NRA going to come into the black neighborhoods. I'm telling you. The people just tired of this. White people are being pushed around, kicked to the curb, having their rights denied, being called a racist, being walked on, watching their tax dollars go to fund all kind of drug sales, prostitution, illegal immigration. I mean, y'all gonna push these white folk till they can't take it no more. I'm telling you. Push these white folk, they gonna come up out of Tennessee and come up out of Oklahoma, come up out of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, come up out of Oregon, and come out of Idaho and California. I'm telling y'all, you're pushing these white folk and you're pushing them, and they're going to get, listen, you're going to push people to the point where they're not going to take it no more. These white folk are not going to take it. You're taking their tax money, you're closing down their jobs, you're shutting down their banks, you're telling them what they can and cannot do, you're giving billions of dollars you're taking their tax money and giving it to people to buy drugs, you're killing babies and you won't stop, you're telling lies, and you're demoralizing our nation. You're destroying everything that has made this nation great. White folk getting ready to rise up. They don't want to take it no more, and I'm joining them. Oh, doggone it. I am. I'm telling you, you're going to see an uprising in this nation, and it won't be long now. I mean, you just can't keep pushing folk the way we're pushing white folk, and the way black folk are pushing white folk. You can't keep doing that. I'm telling y'all, at the sound of a bird, they're going to rise up.
My point I'm trying to get to in today's broadcast is to show even more evidence that shows us that the prophecy given to Dimitri Duduman in 1984 that America would fall because of an internal revolution. It would start with an internal revolution. I'm trying to say that there's a high probability that this is that revolution. Now, new headline. Snoop on left's secretive plot against America. This comes to us from WorldNet Daily. I'm not reading all of it, just a part of it. It says, what do social justice warriors do on a Sunday night? They hold, quote, emergency mass organizing calls to censor President Trump and provide a special training about white nationalism. WorldNetDaily.com eavesdrops on MoveOn.org's latest call Sunday evening. And here's the skinny on what transpired. Okay, so essentially, they're going to tell us what the left, what the progressives, or the communists are saying and planning for this nation. Very interesting. The campaign director began the call accusing President Trump of emboldening white supremacists, adding former chief strategist Steve Bannon's departure from the White House should be regarded as the first step in defeating white supremacy. There is one less white supremacist in the White House, he said. Thanks to months of pressure and organizing, Trump fired Steve Bannon, who went running back to his old job at the hub of racist internet trolls. MoveOn.org was launched in 1998 with a campaign of opposition to the impeachment of President Bill Clinton and emerged as a fundraising vehicle for Democratic Party candidates. Today, it is focused on pushing the impeachment of Trump. Okay, so this is an organization whose primary goal is to get our lawfully, freely elected president out of office. And I'm sure there's more than one of those groups, but there is definitely. So, I mean, we have proof here that there are people that are trying to get our president impeached. So let's go on. Since Trump's campaign began 2 years ago, we have seen a horrific spike in the number of organized hate groups and in the number of hate crimes targeting people of color. How does, I can't pronounce this word here, this is this guy's name, define white supremacy? Quote, opposing illegal immigration and advocating budget cuts of social programs is a form of institutional white supremacy, he explained. How do MoveOn.org and other social justice warriors on the call fight back? Our work here is too difficult to work of standing against white supremacy in every single one of its forms. He said by opposing hate groups, by taking down racist monuments, by opposing hate speech, and by rioting out and reversing laws that are based on ideas of white supremacy, which we know can show up in so many different forms. Okay, so essentially what they're saying is this is a little group of communist spies that are working to destroy our nation. Now, as I've said before, and I still believe I'm right, when they're attacking the Confederate statues, that's not what they're really attacking. When it's the blacks attacking the whites, it's not really the blacks attacking the whites, because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of darkness and evil in high places. Brothers and sisters, we have to understand that this is, first of all, the hand of God allowing this, because this is God starting an internal revolution to take down his beloved nation that has turned from him and turned to sin. Okay, let's continue with the article. The vice mayor of Charlottesville, Virginia, I'll skip the name, joined the call and explained how his city's government investment in public housing and GED programs will help blacks gain equity and defeat white supremacy. Communism is taking the haves and giving it to the have-nots. So essentially, what the vice mayor of Charlottesville is saying, they're not interested in helping the blacks learn or to learn to work a job or to find a job. They're just interested in handing out gifts, handouts. Okay, again, that's communism. Capitalism is the uneven distribution of wealth, whereas communism is the even distribution of poverty. Everybody in a communist nation is poor. And of course, they complain because we have rich people. Well, here's the thing. If you don't have rich people, that means everybody's poor. There's nothing wrong with being rich. Matter of fact, it'd be nice to try it once in a while, I think we'd all say. Let's go on. I believe that it's saying that blacks are organizing and openly fighting against whites, not realizing that in their heart, the real heart of hearts, the real battle is against Christ. Let's go to Revelation 13:5, and let me show you what the Antichrist does, because they are walking in the shoe steps of the Antichrist. And there was given unto him a mouth, speaking great things, that's bad things, and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. So this is the Antichrist, allowed to speak openly and to openly blaspheme God, but there's more. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. Now, here's the way we say that. He's going to blaspheme the name of Jesus, the Bible, and all the Old Testament prophets, all of the things in the Bible, all of the people in the Bible. This guy is going to, and God allows it. Okay, and I think the reason we don't see people speaking out openly against Jesus today is because right now God's not allowing it. They pretty much have to keep their mouth shut about Jesus. But this guy is going to be given, power is given to him to continue 42 months. See, that's what these guys are working behind the scenes. They're really, it's not an attack on Confederate statues. It's not even an attack of blacks on white. It's really an attack on Jesus and those people that follow him. And I'm telling you, it's going to get worse. It's going to get to the worst, to the point to where they're lopping off heads of the Christians. And when you opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud cry, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell upon the earth? And white robes were given to every one of them. And it was said unto them that they should rest yet a little season, until their fellow servants and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. So there is an assignment, as much as it's a little scary to think about it, that God has assigned some people to glorify his name by giving their life. And these days, some of the people listening to this program might be on that list. So we have to understand that that's where we're going, and this is simply an early, small, baby step heading toward the ultimate objective. Notice in the following, there is no mention of jobs or assistance to help them that get jobs. They're only working to destroy this Christian nation. Now, let me go back to the article. There's a $4 million package to help bridge the gap and create equity and $950,000 to our African American Heritage Center, which is the initial first African American school in the city of Charlottesville. That was the school of all the African American schools in the area, he continued. We donated $250,000 to do renovations and updates, a park in the local African American community, $2.5 million to public housing and redevelopment, which is a very, very key initiative for us. And he goes on to list several other things. The point is, they're not looking to really help the blacks move from a low position to a high position, or to help them learn more, or to help them get a job. They're just handing out government dole. Again, that's what you call communism, and people in America are participating in them. To them, Trump represents whites, and indirectly, he represents Christ. New headline. Is McAuliffe to blame for Charlottesville bloody violence? This also comes from WorldNet Daily. In the wake of bloody violence in Charlottesville, Virginia, a congressman is urging the Trump administration to investigate the roles of Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, Charlottesville Mayor Michael Siner, and Unite the Right rally organizer Jason Kessler in the escalation of street violence that left one woman dead and dozens injured. Now, in an earlier broadcast, I just read for you how basically the police said we were betrayed. We were basically told to put Group A in the face of Group B, and then when they started fighting, to withdraw, to stand down. We were not allowed to arrest anyone without the mayor's permission first. And, of course, as a matter of fact, they said even the guy that ran over a bunch of people that killed someone, they weren't allowed to stop him as he sped away. That's what you call started by the communists. I'm saying this could very well be the start of that internal revolution. Now, I've known about the internal revolution coming since 1987. I've been doing my best to try to get it out. How about you? Matter of fact, are you helping to warn that? Look, when we can get the message out now, before people have heard about it. See, because after the internal revolution starts, and you step up and say, yeah, well, I knew this was coming. Yeah, right. Okay. See what I'm saying? But when you can prove that you've been telling people that this thing is coming, when it does arrive, maybe they'll listen. Let's go back to the article, though. Representative Louis Gohmert of Texas called for a Justice Department investigation. Quote, "We've got to have this investigated. They were behind the violence at Trump events, and they may have been behind this violence getting started. They facilitated it anyway." Gohmert claimed the Governor McAuliffe and Mayor Siner had previously indicated there'd be violence in Charlottesville. Well, how'd they know that? Quote, "The witnesses and the photographs show that they herded these groups to create violence." Again, started by the communists. Next headline. You will see riots. U.S. told to brace for messy campus unrest. Once again, WorldNet Daily. As colleges and universities prepare for the return of students in the coming weeks, one of the few administrators willing to criticize the tidal wave of intellectual intolerance on campus is expecting a mess. When the new semester dawns, Oklahoma Wesleyan University President Dr. Everett Popper gained tremendous notoriety in 2015 when he wrote an opinion column decrying universities for coddling student demands for safe places, eradication of ideas that don't mesh with the orthodoxy of political correctness. In that column, he famously declared that a college is not a daycare. Well, now he's went on to write a book about it called Not a Daycare, The Devastating Consequences of Abandoning Truth. He says, oh, it's going to be a mess. You will see protests. You will see riots. You will see the results of teaching victimization and vice for decades. When you teach victimization, you don't get anything but vengeance and violence. The only thing that rescues us from the vicious cycle is to start teaching virtue. Virtue is selfless. Victimization is selfish. Now, I'm going to say this. Why didn't someone suggest that the real solution is for America to repent and turn back to Jesus and to the Bible? They go on to say, he fears many Americans still don't know just how dangerous this campus intolerance and groupthink really is. Well, I'm going to say this, including him. None of these, I'm not hearing anybody, whether it's Christian or not Christian, on radio or TV, I'm not hearing anybody else out there. No one is saying, hey, this thing could bring the downfall of our nation. Hey, this could start an internal revolution. This could start an internal revolution so bad that it could destroy America. See, they don't see far enough down the line because they don't listen to prophets. They don't believe in prophets. They don't believe in the Bible. They don't believe God talks to people today. So consequently, they can't get the warning, you see. Let's go on. What we see on the college green from Berkeley to Brown is going to consume our whole culture. What's taught today in the classroom will be practiced tomorrow in your courtrooms or in your living rooms and in your communities, Piper said. The proof of that is to turn on the news. Listen to your show. Go Google the news, and you see these angry, red-faced 21-year-olds who are demanding that any contrary idea, anything they don't like and makes them feel uncomfortable, be silenced. It's ideological fascism. It isn't academic freedom. We must confront this with the truth. Otherwise, we will not be a free society and a free culture. Yeah, well, hate to say, but it's a whole lot worse than that. But see, they don't see the problem. Again, I mean, even my own brother-in-law doesn't believe there's such a thing as an apostle and a prophet today. A lot of people don't even think God exists, much less that he can talk. So, consequently, America is doomed to be judged if she's not listening to the prophets. Headline, Black on white hostility on the rise, swept under rug, Fox News. There is no doubt that the United States is a country divided, especially along racial lines. But while the white population of America is continually derided as racist, things are not so simple as they appear. Colin Flaherty, author of White Girl Bleed a Lot, The Return of Racial Violence in America and How the Media Ignore It, according to Flaherty, race relations reached their lowest point under the Obama administration, and a lack of media discourse on the issue exacerbated the problem. He noted that 2 weekends ago, there were 4 large examples of black mob violence on the streets of America. Violence of this kind, he says, is often swept under the rug. In Philadelphia, 500 black people are raging through the streets of Germantown, fighting, throwing rocks, bricks, bottles at cops, defying cops, destroying property. Same thing in Pittsburgh. This is happening over and over. And if there's anything underneath it, it's easy to see what it is. He continued, just turn on cable news network and you'll see a talking head expressing this really direct black on white racial hostility. And so you have a lot of hostility that is now mainstream, so you have a lot of violence, okay? What he's saying, but he didn't have the prophetic words to say it, but what he's really saying, he sees an internal revolution coming started by the communists. We called them CNN or cable news network. Started by the communists or started by the Democrats or started by the progressives, all the same group. Let's go on. The root of the violence, often against police, is years of programming from the media, he said. Oh, he got it right, didn't he? He went on to say, he noticed that the establishment media justify black violence in 3 ways. Either it's not happening, or white people do it, or white people deserve it. The justification began during the Obama administration as many government agencies pushed the concept of, quote, white privilege into the mainstream. He said everyone in the Obama administration was behind the race baiting, claiming the Obama DOJ even sent employees to Ferguson, Missouri to agitate for violence. It's just hard to believe how much black-on-white hostility was incorporated into the federal government for 8 years. Reporters and public officials are in denial, deceit, and delusion when they refuse to cover this hostility. You see, what he's describing is started by the communists. The internal revolution started by the communists, started by the communist media. That's what he's saying. I agree with it. Go on. Instead of covering the incidents as an outpouring of black-on-white hostility, reporters push what Flaherty calls the big lie, the idea that blacks in America are victimized. Flaherty said the establishment of media's myth of black victimization has led to unrest. The myth, said, is based on the notion that black people turn to crime as a result of institutional racism from whites and do not due to any other factors. It leads many Americans to excuse crimes and instead blame the police. The reporters and public officials are so eager to convince black people that they are not responsible for their own actions. He also noted that black violence is often directed against Asians, Hispanics, and other blacks, especially in more multicultural urban areas. People try to speak up about these issues are often silenced or forced to apologize, even just for stating the facts. White people and other people have lost the ability to talk about this in a plain fashion. Those who condemn black violence are often called to recant, a demand Flaherty finds ridiculous. Now, let me tell you about, and I'm going to close with this, an incident I had. I was playing racquetball, and this guy asked me if I wanted to play. We went out, we played a couple of games. After we got done playing, we sat down, we started talking. And I said, "You're a Christian?" And I mean, he jumped and he turned his head quickly at me and he said, "Why, yes, I am. Thank you for asking." Well, when someone's that excited to tell you about Jesus, that's a good guy. So we started into a conversation, and in the conversation, I said, "So do you think that the blacks have become more prejudiced than whites?" He fell off of the bench. He rolled around on the floor. Then he sat up and looked at me. He says, "You realize that?" He says, "As a black man, I've been trying to tell other blacks that they are more prejudiced than the whites." And I thought, yeah, well, you being black, you can say that, but I can't say that. So let me just say, I think what is missing in America is Jesus and the love of Jesus. And I think when we get to heaven, there's not going to be any concern about the color of our skin. The only thing that's going to matter is either your name's in the book or it's not in the book. Either Jesus is Lord or it's not Lord. And I love people. Matter of fact, I've discovered it'll make a difference what color your skin is, red and yellow, black or white. We're all precious in His sight. The difference is whose God is in your heart. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers. And thank you for your gifts of support. God bless. Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. Brian Melvin did an excellent job making this DVD called Hell in a Box and From Hell to Heaven. Excellent talk. I've heard about 30 some odd talks of people that have passed on, some to heaven, some to hell. This is one of the best ones. This held my attention all the way through. Now look, just as archaeology can be really powerful to win people to Christ, and you need that. You need this DVD in your hands to show people this will convince people. I'm saying this will convince the skeptic to get saved very powerfully. You want this DVD and this book, Hell in a Box and Hell to Heaven, and the book, A Land Unknown, Hell's Dominion. DVD gift of 30, book gift of 20, both for a gift of 45, prophecyclub.com or 785-266-1112. The Hell gift offer. Keep them out of it with the Hell gift offer. prophecyclub.com, 785-266-1112.